Hello gamers, I'm MegaRaptor18 and this is the second video of mine about customization. First one being about modular combat rifles and how Call of Duty needs to start following that model. Now if you're familiar with it, or not familiar with it I should say, check it out, you'll learn a lot from it, and it's really, if any series can pull this off, I will be a fan of it. Let's say any series that comes up, a new series comes up, and they come up with they implement the modular combat rifle. I will abandon Call of Duty 100% for it. I just will. Now, to customization, enough of that, customization, and how Call of Duty has brought it in and have screwed it up. Let us begin, shall we? Now, when they brought it in for Ghosts, I loved it. First I loved it. Alright, the ability to do anything I want, dress up my soldier any way I want to, as long as I can unlock the equipment, and the uniform types and such, and clothing. Well, and that hope kind of started from Black Ops, when the look of your soldier came from the perk he was using. Sorry about that. A little nervous at the moment. But depending on the perk is how they would look. I liked that. I loved it, and I thought at the time at Black Ops 1 they could have done more with it. So when I saw customization coming back for Ghosts, I was ecstatic for it. First I liked it. Then I actually started playing the game. And then I realized I couldn't tell who was friend or foe. That became an issue. Because if you cannot tell friend from foe, you hesitated a lot. Or you end up firing on your own guys. And I thought to myself, oh well, it sucked. I couldn't imagine playing it on hardcore. I couldn't imagine how many team kills there were on hardcore mode. A lot of people probably got kicked out of that because they couldn't distinguish between friend or foe. Which is kind of the entire point of uniforms. Uniforms didn't get created because they looked pretty. That's what dress uniforms are for. Combat uniforms are designed for several purposes. One is utility. You know, make sure you have everything you need on you to be able to equip what you need. Next is camouflage, to be able to hide within your environment. Now granted, within Call of Duty, you can really say screw camouflage because it's a video game. I can understand that. In fact, in some cases I'm for it. But more importantly, this is the critical factor about uniforms. It identifies you who you are fighting for. It identifies with your allies so they don't shoot at you by accident. And it also lets the enemy know who you are. But vice versa, you can identify you can identify your enemies a lot easier when they're in uniform. Of course, that makes modern warfare kind of difficult since we're currently fighting an enemy that doesn't wear a uniform. So civilian casualties are inevitable when you have an enemy force that hides among the civilian population. But that's in a serious topic, not a Call of Duty topic. So let me get away from that for a second. I never imagined I would be talking, when I started this whole thing about uniforms in Call of Duty, in customization, I should say, that I had to dive into the history of military uniforms, but I may have to. Because uniforms have been around for centuries. That's just a flat-out truth. You can date it all the way back to the Roman Empire, the Roman Republic, I should say, when they had their own official uniforms. Very basic, just a red cloak with some armor and such. Forgive me. Little issue with the throat. And yeah, hell, you could say the same thing about the Spartans. They had their own type of uniform. Of course, they were allowed to dress up their shields a little bit. That's what they were allowed to customize. And there was a famous story of a Spartan who drew a life-size fly, literally just a tiny little fly, on his shield. And when the other Spartans would ask him, "Why did you draw a fly, a life-size fly, on your shield?" I mean, the other guys, they were drawing lions, they were drawing the symbol of Sparta. They were making all these intricate drawings of famous mythological creatures. In a way, like emblems, but that's another thing. Well, the Spartan would reply, because when an enemy is close enough to see my fly, it will look like a lion. Now, that's just a Spartan mentality right there. But you can tell later on, about maybe a couple centuries later, when the Romans became the top dominant, you see the big contrast. They didn't have much customization within the armed forces. That trend began with them. At least I will say that's where the trend began. Other amateurs and professional historians will probably debate me on that one, and I'll welcome it. I would welcome other opinions on that. That other armed forces were uniformed to the degree of Rome, more so and such. But that's when you start seeing uniformed armies, was with the Roman legion. Over time now, throughout the Dark Ages, that became harder. There was less and less uniforms, and it was more friendly fire incidents, so to speak. If you're in a giant mesh and you're not in formation, you might kill your own side by accident. Fast forward to, let's say, the 17th and 18th centuries, even 19th century, you start seeing more and more use in uniforms. The British Redcoats, to be a great example of that. I mean, why would anyone in their right mind wear a bright red-colored uniform? It isn't good for camouflage. I mean, the other nations of Europe were using blue and darker tones, green even. The Russians, I know, used green, and the Prussians used a dark type of blue, a dark navy blue. At least I think it was navy blue. It was one of those really dark shades of blue. The British had a reason for red. You know, they had several reasons. You could say, oh, it's the color of blood, you know, all that good stuff. But the more practical reason was, in a smoke-filled battlefield, you can spot your mates. You can spot your fellow British soldiers. And so you were less likely to shoot them by accident. Downside is it made them easy to spot as well to the enemy. But they figured it's easier to, how do I phrase it? It's always phrasing with me. It is far better that you don't get shot by your own side. Rather be killed by the enemy than being killed by your own. And within the last few not Black Ops games, last few Call of Duty games, Ghost and Advanced Warfare, in hardcore mode, you see a lot more blue on blue. You see a lot more people killing each other, or worst case, hesitating to kill the enemy. And then you compare that to past Call of Duty games. Let's say Call of Duty 4, Modern Warfare 1 and 2, Black Ops 1 and 2. You were playing hardcore. You didn't really have an excuse. There wasn't much of an excuse when you shot your buddy by accident. Because he's in his faction's uniform, you're in your uniform, there's no issue there. You have no excuse. But with the customization shown in Ghost and even Advanced Warfare, blue and blue fatalities have increased within the game in hardcore mode. And in core mode, when friendly fire is turned off, sometimes you just You're pouring boxes of bullets into your friends because you think they're an enemy. Just our gut instinct. You see a guy you don't recognize, you shoot him. You know, just like that scene in Desperado. You know, you drive around, you see someone you don't recognize, you shoot him. How hard is that? And that same mentality is in Call of Duty. Because you're not familiar with who is on your team and who's on the other team. There's no uniforms. That is why we need to get a step away from the whole free-for-all style customization. We need to step away from that. We need faction-based customization. So you have a character model, for example, for the American Armed Forces. So you have an American combat model. So that you got a character, he's an American, he only has American gear. That's it. He just has American-made gear, what is used by U.S. Armed Forces. Now you could expand that to like any branch. So you could say he have a Marine Corps helmet, but he has a vest that's typically seen on U.S. Infantrymen, you know, Army infantry, and he has airborne boots. You know, okay, not really possible, but you can stretch, you can pull it, you can stretch it. And then you have a Russian character model who has only access to Russian-made equipment, uniforms, and tactical gear. So he may have a Spetsnaz, a VDV Spetsnaz, I should say, airborne, light blue beret. What's it called? Ultramarine beret. I think it's ultramarine. Ultramarine beret. And then you could have just basic Russian ground forces combat vest. Very simple. You could do the same thing with a British character. You want him to have the gas mask seen on the SAS soldiers in previous Modern Warfare games, but you don't want him being all decked out in black. You want him to have a basic combat, like British infantry combat gear, or for the rest of his body. You can do that. Next, let's say, do the same thing with Chinese. You want this guy to look like he belongs in the Chinese Navy. You can do that. But you have a separate model for that, for the Chinese character. So when you, okay, for example, you have the Russian character down pat. This is what you play as. This is what you look like when you play as the Russians. So every time Spetsnaz fights, let's say, SAS, you have your Spetsnaz model in there. You look like a Russian soldier. You look like you belong in the Russian armed forces. And your opposition, they will look like they belong in the British armed forces. Same thing with Op 4. Now you could probably think you could probably add in more stuff with Op 4, but in reality you still have to keep in with uniform. So you have Chechen terrorists instead. Well, they have to look like Chechen terrorists. They have to look like they have borrowed gear, stolen gear, or gear from neighboring countries that they smuggled into Chechnya. Or they could be just generic Arabs. Well, have the outfits that a generic Arab nation would have. It's that simple. And also, have camouflage patterns. Each faction has its own set of camouflage patterns, and you get to pick which camouflage pattern you want for that character model. Of course, they're not going to be radically different, just slightly different. But overall, the silhouette would be American. The silhouette would be Russian, would be Op 4, would be Chechen, would be Chinese, it would be British, it would be whatever nation you decide to put into this. And let's get away from the two factions only. It may be like the past two games, you know, that has helped create the confusion. It just has created the confusion. And let's be honest, on Advanced Warfare, none of them look like soldiers. They don't even look like private military contractors. They just look like a bunch of street thugs with fancy gear. Or either they look like street thugs, or worse, they look like they belong in the Halo series. Which is good and all, but the problem is, at least in Halo's multiplayer, it was color-coded. You were either on red team or you were on blue team. You can tell who was on the enemy team, and it didn't matter what you looked like. Now, in Ghost, they did try to make the difference, but the difference was very minor. It was either you had one style camo, and the other team had the other style camouflage. It didn't work. It still created confusion. It still caused you to shoot your friends. And let's be honest, you waiting for the name tag to come up to shoot the guy created a lot of issues. Remember, uniforms, like I said before, were not created just so you look pretty on parade ground. That's the ceremonial uniforms. But battlefield uniforms had a purpose to identify you to your allies and to the enemy, and to most importantly to the civilian population, to who you are, who you're fighting for. And that distinction would be life or death. And there are major differences between Russian equipment and American equipment, especially in their silhouettes. Or at least it was in past games. You can tell the difference. You never once mistaken a Russian VDV for a U.S. Army Ranger. You never mistaken that. You never mistaken SAS for Spetsnaz. You just never made that mistake. Now you are making that mistake in these games. I mean, half the time you're playing, do you even care what side you're on? And then Ghost? Oh, I was Federation. Oh, I was Ghost. Hell, the announcers sound the same, so what team am I on? Oh, I'm in Sentinel. Okay, the voice sounds different. Yeah, I think I'm in Sentinel. Well, I think I'm in Atlas. And you know what's ridiculous about that? In both Ghost and Advanced Warfare's single player, the Federation had official uniforms. So did the Ghosts. But yet in multiplayer, there was no uniform patterns. You weren't bound to a certain uniform scheme when you were playing as that faction. Atlas, this private military corporation that you think would have a variety of gear, didn't, because their ground forces had official uniforms. They had specialized uniform gear that identified them as Atlas. You not want you see U.S. forces or Sentinel using Atlas gear, uniform-wise. No, they had their own stuff. Hell, even the North Koreans had their own uniforms. Which, kind of wondering how they got all that fancy technology, though. I mean, I'm gonna sidetrack here for a second. How did the North Koreans get all that fancy toys? All those wonderful pieces of technology. Did China give it to them? Wouldn't we, the player who was interested in, military technology or history, don't we deserve an answer on how they got that? And what happened after that? After that Battle of Seoul? Was that conflict just resolved instantaneously? I mean, it was immediately we were pulled out of that conflict, and we didn't know what came of it or how it began. We didn't learn nothing of that conflict, did we? Maybe I might save that for my third video, which I'll probably end up calling Cripples, Bastards, and Broken Things. A cookie to anyone who got that reference. It has to be a fake cookie because I can't really send a cookie in the mail. Postal service is kind of weird like that. Okay. Next topic. Within the customization. Alright. Now here's a couple of pictures from multiplayer I found online. This one's from Black Ops 1. I want you to identify the gentleman to the left, a little to the left, back facing to me. What side is he fighting on? I'll give you time to think it over. Alright, enough time. If you guessed Russian Spetsnaz, then you are correct. Let's move on to the next one, shall we? Now to the next one, you can see two gentlemen fighting over a pool. One in the pool, one out of the pool. Now to the gentleman to the left of the screen, who is firing into the pool. Who does he fight for? I'll give you time to figure that one out as well. Okay. If you guessed U.S. Army Ranger, then you are correct. Let's move on to the next picture. Now this one's from Ghost. The gentleman to the far left of me, identify who does he fight for. Or better yet, identify the guy that he's shooting at as well. I can't give you the correct answers because I don't have a clue who they're fighting for, which side they're on, if they're Ghost or Federation. Let's move on to the next picture, shall we? Now to Advanced Warfare, where it gets even more confusing. More so than ever. Okay, identify the guy to the far left of the screen. Is he Atlas or Sentinel? I don't know. Identify the idiot jumping up into the air. I don't know who that guy is. I don't know who he fights for. Though given how long he's going to be in the air, jumping up in the air, he's pretty much skeet. So, no clue on that one. Let's go to the next one. Maybe better luck that time. Oh man, this one. Should you even bother trying to guess? All I see is a guy with a shield being shot upon by a dumbass wielding 2 LMGs. Yeah, that dumbass. Completely exposed, out in the open. It's probably going to get taken out by the guy squatting at the corner. I know I rant about the dual LMGs like I would rant against the dual shotguns in Modern Warfare 2. Who the fuck came up with that one? I have no fucking clue. But okay, what's done is done on that. But in full honesty, in my own personal opinion, if any idiot decides to dual wield SMGs, SMGs or even LMGs, you know the phrase, the words that guy said before he grabbed them and equipped them was, "Bo, hold my beer," or "Dude, hold my beer." Because you have to be an idiot to do something like that. You have to be an idiot to willingly expose yourself to fire. But I went into that already in the last video about modular assault rifles. So, no point in me repeating and me getting angry, pissed, and wanting to throw things against the wall. Which would be first. But given how Call of Duty is going, I might be doing that in November. Next topic. Let's get away from these. Next topic. Let me get to the final thoughts. There we go. Final thoughts. Actually, I nearly forgot. Now thinking about it, before I get to final thoughts, I'm going to go ahead and talk about more aspects of customization. As you see on the screen, you see Saints Row 4's customization. Call of Duty is heading towards that, and while I love unlimited amount of customization, or at least it was unlimited in Saints Row 2, but that's another issue for another video to another company. Call of Duty is heading down this way. And it's getting, and you call BS on that. Trust me, it ain't BS. When you see panda-themed exosuits, when you see flag-themed exosuits, which you have to pay $2 for, so patriotism costs $2. Thank you. And note the sarcasm on that. So if I want to be an overly patriotic fool on the battlefield, I have to pay $2 for it. Yeah. Don't get my own country for free. That's I can understand getting the foreign flags. I can understand a British subject paying $2 to get the red, white, and blue stars and stripes exosuit. I understand an American paying $2 to get a Canadian flag. I don't understand buying my own country's flag, though. But okay. Business is business. And as you see on here, hopefully by the time... This is pre-recorded separate from the video clip. You see me in the panda suit, jumping around, fighting Zen. I think that's what they'll call it. Yeah, the Zen. Now you probably see me start jumping around like an idiot, firing an assault rifle at him. Or you see me gunning down civilians, but that's only to draw out the Zen to showcase my point. If Advanced Warfare had a third-person mode, this is what it will look like. Today is an exaggeration. You know what I'm saying is exaggeration. But in a couple more installments, this will become a reality. And while I love pandas more than any straight man should. But this is getting ridiculous. Even by my own standards. Excuse me. Which is pretty ridiculous as it is. But when I'm playing a military shooter, I kind of want to be immersed in that style. I don't want weed camo. I don't want Snoop Dogg as an announcer. Hell, I don't even want to play as any of the main characters in the storyline in any of the series. Unless in the Killzone series, Guerrilla Games does something similar where you get to play as Colonel Raddick. Then, okay, I will break my own personal rule for that. But for Call of Duty, no. Absolutely not. I might have just contradicted myself, but I really don't care at this point. I'm making my point about faction-based customization and the ridiculous little packs, DLC packs for customization. It's just flat out ridiculous. And it screws with the faction-based system that I am proposing. Well, it's getting cartoony. And you don't want Call of Duty to become a cartoon. If I want cartoony style action, cartoony style designs, I would play Saints Row. I would play a game that thrives on cartoony action. And I do. But I kind of like to keep that separate. It's like how I like to keep my real life separate from my internet life. I don't expect much, in my internet life. In fact, people in my real life don't know I have an internet life. That's how far I go to keep them separate. Just like my genres, I like to keep them separate. I like to keep our military shooters in one corner, and I like to keep the goofy shit in another corner. Sometimes they'll mix perfectly. Like in, your competitor's Battlefield series. Bad Company, before they sold out with Battlefield 3 and 4. Bad Company 1 and 2 were the best Battlefield games of all time. Now, hardcore Battlefield fans will disagree with me on that, because there's other games like Battlefield 2, 1942 as well. There's several Battlefield games that Battlefield fans will agree with me were good. But my personal opinion, Bad Company 1 and 2 were the best of the series. So, if they ever do a Bad Company 3 and they do what they've done to Hardline, to do what they've done to Battlefield 4, I am going to be ultra pissed at DICE. And they'll be getting a video. In fact, I'll have to make a video to them about Star Wars Battlefront 3, but I am getting way off topic. Let me just go straight to final thoughts, if you will. Final thoughts, and wow, this is going to be a long video. Apologies for that, and if you have kept watching Mr. Vonderhaar, then I again thank you for the respect you have shown. But it is time for, just like modular combat rifles are the future of Call of Duty, team-based customization is also the future of Call of Duty. Just like in Black Ops 1, you had team-based customization. While limited, you could expand that to anything. You could expand it. Just keep it within the factions. You would save customization if you're continuing with customization. Personally, if you revert back to the whole static, you play as this type of soldier, this type of weapon you get, or this type of perk, you get this type of design. I'll be okay with that. But if you decide to continue customization, you have to implement what I have laid out. It's the best way of saving it, and also showing real improvement within the series itself. Like I said in the last video, this is your last shot. Last opportunity to save the series. Because if Black Ops 3 fails, you won't have much of an audience left. It's that plain and simple. You won't have much left. You have a bunch of 12-year-olds, and sooner or later, customizable-wise, sorry about that, customizable-wise, you will start to have to appeal to their nature, to their immature nature, which ain't their fault. They're young, and sooner or later, you'll probably have to put in, like, bizarre things that don't belong in a military shooter. Like scantily clad women outfits. You laugh, but it's inevitable. If you lose your older, more adult audience, you will have to resort to that to keep the kiddies from coming in. They keep them coming, because puberty is pretty much consumed their brain, and they can't think of anything else but beautiful women. So you will be forced to put in, like, scantily clad women outfits, and for the lady gamers, you have to put in some guy in a Speedo. Also, to appeal to your more larger figured community, some obese gentlemen. Let's just say that much. Okay, I kind of creeped you guys out with that. I'm going to put up a picture of a beautiful lady on there. Just for a second. To help wash that image out of your head. You think I'm joking now? Well, I wish I was joking. To be perfectly honest, I wish I was joking about this, but your current course will lead to this. And the series will become well, it'll suffer the same fate as Guitar Hero. In fact, some could say you are suffering that fate right now. With declining sales, declining fan base. This is your final shot. And you have to take it. You have to hit it. You have to hit the target between the eyes. Team-based customization, along with modular combat rifles, will save the series. Other things like dedicated servers, DSR, all that other stuff that everybody talks about, that's great. That's all great. But if the core gameplay mechanics isn't fixed, then what good is dedicated servers? If the core of the game is not improved and not given true innovation, what is the point of dedicated servers, DSRs? What's the point of all this? What's the point of MLG if there's no improvement in the game? Actually, speaking of that, if you have MLG guys telling you keep things the way they are, or improve sniper rifles, or do stuff that makes them better at the game, from all the casual gamers, this is my message from all the casual gamers, from all the gamers who have an equal view, the same view of MLG that I have, tell them to go fuck themselves. Because we don't give a shit about MLG. We don't give a shit about these major league gamers. We want to play a fucking game. And the core mechanics of this series hasn't been updated since Call of Duty 4. I think that was like 2007. And MLG wants to keep things the way they are. No. MLG does not have this series' interest at heart. I'm pretty much the last of the people I know that still play this series. So this is sort of a desperate last attempt of mine. Instead of, just sitting on my ass bitching about it, I'm making this series. I'm making these videos to every company, to be honest, to save this industry. Call of Duty is the big one. Save Call of Duty, the series, the whole industry has a chance. Until that day, you are replaced. And at this time, with your current course, your replacement is inevitable. The series is the series that replaces you be better or worse than you? Hard to say. I pray for its best, but something tells me it won't be. I mean, you're going to copyright everything. You copyright the control scheme. You probably copyright the movement style. So when you go under, you take it all with you, unless you lose that copyright. But something tells me Activision is going to hang on to that copyright. This is the last chance to save it all. I will detail more things in my next video called Bastards. Cripples, Bastards, and Broken Things. Which will be a mosh pit of different things, smaller things that couldn't be its own video. So think of it as like a variety bag. And Mr. Vonderhaar, Treyarch, Activision. Destiny is not going to be the next big thing. If that's what you were thinking, if you thought Destiny was going to be the next big series, boy, ain't you disappointed? Because it ain't. Call of Duty can still be that moneymaker. If it dies, it's because you allowed it to die. And gaming will enter in a dark age. And you won't be making that bottom line anymore. Destiny will not be making the millions upon millions of dollars that Call of Duty did for you. But you have to save Call of Duty now. Ghost failed miserably. Anyone who thinks Ghost is the best in the series needs their head examined. Anyone who thinks Advanced Warfare was a great game obviously hasn't played a Call of Duty game in his life. His or her life. I want Black Ops 3 to be the renaissance. The renaissance of the series. That changed everything for the better. But only you can do that. All I can do is just talk. You are the one that could actually do this. And to all the fans, any fan who is listening to me, press them on it. You get the power to. They're not going to listen to just one guy, but they will listen to 1,000. If they're listening to MLG, there's a handful of guys, just because they have subscribers, and all those UberTubers out there, they listen to them. It's because you're not making your voice heard. You need to drown out the UberTubers. You need to drown out the MLG. You could drown them out. Just like that. And then I can quit making videos and start playing a game. Because I'm not looking to be famous. I have no illusions that I'll be obscure. I have no illusions of that. I will disappear from YouTube. I have no illusions. But I'm tired of wasting hard-earned money on a subpar product. And someone tells me enough of you are as well. A lot of you are, in fact. That's why I joined the Gaming Revolution Coalition. Check out other YouTubers like Arch Nemesis, like Horse60, MP7 Probe, even Delta the Red. While politically we're complete fucking opposites, me and him have a common cause, which is Call of Duty. There are more of us out there. There's more people out there who agree as you agree as I agree on the state of the series. Instead of just sitting on our ass saying, oh, that's just how it is, use the power of the internet. Listen to me, do I sound like a professional? Do I sound like I'm using a professional equipment? No, I'm using this cheap ass microphone. That's probably shit older than the computer I'm using. You don't need great quality. Just a great message. Just go out there and do it. Just do it. Voice your opinion. If there's something else you want that you think will benefit the series, not just yourself, but the series as a whole, go for it. Do it. Drown out their Twitter. Drown out their email. It's time. Well, I think I've rambled on enough. I'm going to be leaving off. So, see you lovely folks later. And time for me to begin working on my next project, which will be Cripples, Bastards, and Broken Things. See ya.